Welcome to Tibalt's Apprentice, Luck of the Draw. As always, well not always, I'm joined by a guest actually here.
Hey Mike, good to see you again.
Welcome back. You don't get out often. This is a real treat for me. I got to play Friday. We got to play with Josh, and now he actually is showing up here Monday to be on Tibalt's Apprentice. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Mike.
All right, so I gave you a kind of a sneak peek or a little taste of what the question or the topic was going to be before. And for those of you joining us, the discussion is, well, this is the last game of Commander you're going to play.
Ever.
So, what deck do you play?
Yeah, what commander do you pick? And there's so many good ones out there.
But of the ones that you personally own, what is your thought process for deciding that?
Oh, man. Oh, okay. Good question. And that's certainly going to be an individual taste to everybody you ask. I hope you do more episodes like this.
I definitely know, not yet. I'm going to do more. I hope to have Enrique back on here with me. That's going to be another one.
Right, cool.
But I want to hear your process for deciding what you're going to play, and I'll explain and then I'll kind of go into why this question even came up.
Okay,
sounds good. Go ahead.
So, Mike, we talked about this earlier last week, or
last Friday.
This past Friday,
just a couple days ago. This is a Monday, so we're down at Game Hub in Manhattan Beach filming.
Nice plug.
We slipped it in there just casually. Nobody noticed. Anyhow.
So we talked a little bit about this, and I chose as my commander Maelstrom Wanderer.
Okay, you seem to not have a problem with that too. Like you didn't think too long.
No. It's one of my first commander decks I ever built.
Okay.
And it has some of my favorite colors in it.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that in a minute, but. Blue, red, green, and a whole lot of colorless. 5 of them.
Okay.
Gets you Maelstrom Wanderer and his effects.
Right.
And first of all, Maelstrom Wanderer himself is kind of a testament to the kind of magic I like to play, especially in Commander, which is just your cards need to provide value.
Okay.
They need to provide some type of value and advantage to your game state. And Maelstrom Wanderer does that in spades. I mean, first of all, he gives itself and all your creatures haste, which is awesome.
I'm going to stop you for a second, though. You went straight for this just based on strategy?
No,
what was the thought process?
It's 2 of them.
Okay.
Number 1, the colors allow me to do things that I like to do.
Okay.
And the value that Maelstrom Wanderer. I love hasty creatures.
Okay.
I love myself some hasty creatures, and so you combine your hasty creatures with the value of cascading and cascading again, and just the way the rest of this deck is structured, it just really fits my kind of play style.
Is this the only commander that you have like that, though?
No, not by any means.
Okay.
A lot of my commanders, the ones that I like to play today, all come with a lot of value. I like Tulane.
Right.
We played that over the weekend.
Yeah.
Golos, Tireless Pilgrim, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I don't get to play my decks often enough to remember the card name.
Understandable. And in my case, when I've got 20 different decks now, I can't remember every card and every commander and every terror. And I'm old, so that's the other thing too. So there's that.
Yeah, that's that too.
Here's my thing then, just briefly. My thought process with this was looking at it, and it's like, okay, what do I do? Do I go back to the first commander that I had, which was I think was Kalia the Vast, or do I go to the next one, which was Zedruu the Great-Hearted, only because that showed me that Smashing Face wasn't the only way to win, or do I go to something like the Freyalise deck, which is sad, lonely Freyalise was the only commander that was left on the table at the counter behind the counter on the game shop. She was the only commander left there, so I got stuck with her.
Sad.
I took her home. I gave her a good home, and she's taking great care of me in the meantime. Learning tribal synergy.
With that.
Yeah, that was it. So which ones do I go for? So mine. actually probably is the Analia deck, just because of the value she provides and the Eminence trigger, her being able to play from the command zone or having an effect on the game from the command zone that nothing else can really stop, provided me value. The fact that card, that I've got a single card combo that she can win with her Eminence trigger, the Wanderwine Prophet, of course, being able to get multiple turns because of the Time Stream Navigator and the Eminence effect. Being able to let me take multiple turns in the game. Right. There's so many ways that this can come out of nowhere and all the enter the battlefield effects.
Yeah, I love those Eminence. Was that a 2017 product?
I think so. Yeah.
Commander product, and those were really well done by Wizards. And so was their inaugural. I think it was 2011. Mm-hmm. Was their inaugural?
I think so.
Fought with Kalia, with Riku, and 3 others.
Right.
I don't remember them off the top of my head, but
gotcha.
Again, awesome products.
But my thought process was, what am I going to enjoy playing the most? What I'm going to enjoy playing is being the monkey in the wrench, just throwing some random effects in there, then suddenly winning out of nowhere and stuff. That was for me.
Yep.
The reason this came up, though, and we're having a discussion, and we're going to go into talking about the Maelstrom Wanderer, though, specifically, is the reason it came up is because my approach to Commander, relatively up till, say, a few months ago, maybe a year ago, not even a year ago, we'll say a few months ago, maybe since the time that I've started filming this, has always been wrong. My approach to a Commander game, setting down and playing, has almost always been, I have this janky deck, I'm going to play this first and see how it goes. And so it's a janky deck, and it performs jankily. And so I lose. So the next game I up the level. The problem is there's one, possibly 2 other people at the table that just lost to a third person. So their deck levels are going from a 7 to, say, an 8 or a 9. And I'm going from like a 3 to a 5 on that next game. If there's a next game. Yeah. And then I get beat down again. So I sat down, and most recently, a couple weeks ago, we sat down. And I sat down with Matt. Matt's actually been on the show before. He's going to proxy the deck right now. We'll be talking about Riku of the 2 Reflections at some point here, I hope, soon. But I knew I was only going to get one shot at this. And so I chose my Commander based on the fact that I was going to get to play one game and one game alone.
Okay.
And so this carried over into the question of, if I'm only ever going to play one game, I should be making that decision if I'm going to win, or what my goal is before I sit down to play. What am I going to play? I'm approaching it as though it's the last game I'm ever going to play. No, it's not that dire.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
I get it, but you've got to create the situation.
I've got to think, what am I going for tonight? Do I just want to be obnoxious? Sometimes. But am I actually trying to win? Do I want to see an effect or whatever? You know what I mean? I have that planned out ahead of time. And if I'm going to win, well, I'm probably going to go for Analia then. But so we landed on this. So this is the discussion. This is a topic and stuff. So
that's an interesting point you make, Mike, is some people just love to do crazy, wacky things in Commander. And sometimes those decks there's not an intention necessarily to win. Winning is a byproduct. If it happens, great. But more importantly is, let me be that monkey in the
yes, the monkey in the wrench. Yes, throwing a monkey. That's what I said. Yes, being a monkey wrench is something. But I was saying I'm being the monkey in the wrench. Yes, that's
So you throwing in being that wrench, kind of throwing things into disarray.
Yeah.
Could be interesting, but it's my last.
I do wear chaos on my arm there, so anyhow.
You embrace the chaos.
That's right.
Always have. I want to win too. Mm-hmm. I want to win that last game, but I don't want to do it in such an overwhelming fashion that the game doesn't seem interactive or fun.
Okay.
One of my most favorite games with this deck was with Enrique 3 or 4 years ago, and I was crushing him, and it looked like I had him on the ropes, and he comes back from nothing. And ends up beating me. And despite the fact that I lost the game, it's one of the most memorable games I've ever had playing Magic.
Nice.
Because of the wild and crazy swings that ended up happening. I mean, even though it turned around, I was able to get the upper hand a couple more times in that game, and I'd lose it again, and it just wildly swaying back and forth, and he ended up He ended up
crushing you in the end. Well,
yeah, he ended up defeating me.
That happens. Okay.
So
fair enough. Well, let's get into the deck then.
Okay, so I picked out some cards to kind of show the audience of the thought process and the idea that went into this deck. Now, first of all, Maelstrom Wanderer is a very expensive commander. We mentioned earlier in the cast here, eight to cast,
Right.
which means you want a lot of ramp, and there is a lot of ramp in this deck. I've got 10 or 12 cards right in front of me. The audience at home will notice I don't know if they're looking very carefully or not. I don't know if you can tell. It's almost all green, and it's all the explosive vegetation, the far seek, the rampant growth, the cultivate effects. They're all the same effects, which is go get lands, put them into play.
Quick question though. So is this your own build, or is this something you started with and you kind of worked it to fit your personality?
So I think it's been a long time. So this is, again, I think this deck is 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
I haven't played it probably in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I think I got the idea off of somebody else.
Okay.
I think
Fair enough.
I don't think it was my deck originally. I've added some tweaks over the years.
You honed it and massaged it into being your deck? Fair enough.
Yep. One of my favorite ramp spells is Boundless Realm. It is 7 to cast, and you get to get as many basic land cards as you have lands in the battlefield. So you're doubling your land count.
Right.
It's 7 to cast, which means you probably have 6 or 7 lands. Going from 6 to 7 to 12 to 14 lands is phenomenal. Now, first of all, you need quite a number of basics to be able to support that, and this deck has that. It's got 16 basic lands, almost half of the lands in the deck, 38 total lands in the deck. Almost half of them are basics. Why? Because of Boundless Realms.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot more utility lands that have been printed over the years that I could probably put in here to make it stronger, but this deck was almost perfect when I built it, so why mess with that?
Sure.
The deck doesn't have a lot of big fatty boom booms in it.
Okay.
It's got some. I'll talk about a couple of those in a minute, and it's got some important artifacts in it too. If I'm behind, I need a way to kind of reset things. There's a couple of artifacts that allow me to do that. Navinral's Disc is an old favorite of mine. Navinral's Disc was one of the first cards I ever played with. When I got introduced around 4th edition.
4th edition, okay.
Is when I first started playing, and so Navinral's Disc was a card.
Unfortunately, Enrique has cured me of my love of Navinral's Disc because that used to be a pet card of mine. In fact, during our pet card episode, I think I named that one. Probably that very next episode or shortly thereafter, it fell out of favor because it doesn't handle planeswalkers.
Oh, good point.
Okay, never mind. I wasn't going to talk about that anymore.
Mike's not a fan of planeswalkers?
Not a fan.
We've seen that probably on multiple episodes.
Watch Arena, anyhow, never mind. But you still use Navinral's Disc. Sure,
Yep.
what else does it though?
O-Stone, Oblivion Stone.
Okay.
So similar to Navinral's Disc, 1 less to cast. It's only 3 to cast. And if you have the time, you can put fate counters on different permanents so that when you actually snap the Oblivion Stone to destroy everybody's permanents, anything with a fate counter stays on the battlefield.
Gotcha.
So usually though, if I'm playing this card, I'm behind, I need to snap it almost immediately.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. Last artifact I want to talk about is just right in line with what this deck wants to be doing, and it's Crystal Shard.
Right.
Crystal Shard is 3 to cast and 3 colorless, and tapping it gives you the effect where you can return target creature from the battlefield. Return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. Well, I don't want to pay 1 when I'm returning Maelstrom Wanderer to my hand only to cast it again that turn or the next turn. So, yep, more than happy to have Maelstrom Wanderer come back to my hand.
I'm assuming, too, that there's maybe somebody in your play group, who shall remain nameless, that maybe likes to take creatures, say, or maybe manipulate the battlefield in such that they wind up with your creatures. That Crystal Shard is then handy.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's great offensively, and it's not bad in a pinch defensively either.
Right.
So you've tapped out, and I want that really troublesome creature off the battlefield. It's back in your hand.
Nice.
So, and that's again, more of a tempo play. That can be a tempo play where I'm setting you back because now you're recasting that creature next turn, and not really, you're back to where you were and not necessarily advancing your game state.
Right.
So, awesome card all around, and has been fantastic in this deck. Again, this deck wants a really healthy amount of like 5, 6, 7 casting cost type cards.
Well, so you mentioned the fact early on that Maelstrom Wanderer is 8
Yes.
to cast. I was going to say something about, does that, when we were first talking about it, whether that gives you a cap on what you need to, but 8 mana, there's so much value.
Yeah,
right
as a matter of fact,
between that 6, even with a 5, say between 5 and 7, there's all kinds of game-breaking effects.
That's right. That's right. And since this deck's been built, there's been plenty more you could certainly revamp this deck with almost cards that have been created since, or has been
released
since this deck's been made.
Yeah.
And you could have probably just almost as equally powerful deck.
Right.
But you're right. You don't want to cast Maelstrom Wanderer and watch your Eldrazi go by.
Right.
Right. You don't want your 11, 12, 13, 15 casting cost cards in your deck when Maelstrom Wanderer does nothing for you there.
Right.
So no Eldrazi's are found in this deck. And as a matter of fact, there's only one card that costs 8 or more aside from Maelstrom Wanderer in the deck. Pretty powerful effect, Praetor's Council, but not one I'm going to talk about here. Just
Everybody knows that's a given. Sure.
Yeah. So, a couple of my favorite creatures that I love to put into play off of Maelstrom Wanderer is Chancellor of the Spires and Intent the Dreamer. Intent the Dreamer is the only dragon in the entire deck, which is amazing considering the number of dragons that are probably really powerful that you could put into play from Maelstrom Wanderer in Maelstrom Wanderer's colors. But Intent the Dreamer is a 6/6. It's got flying like every dragon, or most dragons. So it's got your evasion. It's a pretty decent body. And what it does is for two colorless and a blue, you can remove the top card from the game. And as long as Intent the Dreamer is in play, you could play that card without paying its mana cost.
Okay.
So it's right in line with what Maelstrom Wanderer does.
Sure.
Right. It's casting cards for
free.
Which
sure.
Value Town, come on home.
Yes.
Chancellor of the Spires, another beefy body at 5/7, a 7 mana cost spell. So of course Maelstrom Wanderer sees it and casts it. It's got an effect. You can reveal it if you have it in your hand.
Right. Has like a ley line effect. Where if you're in your opening hand.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. It's got that's perfect example, perfect comparison. Each opponent is going to put 7 cards into their graveyard. So if you're playing a 4-player game, which we ideally like to do, I know we don't always get 4, but 3 or 4 players, you're talking 14 to 21 cards. Good chance that one of them is a pretty strong sorcery or instant. And when Chancellor of Spires leaves play, you can cast an instant or sorcery from your opponent's graveyard without paying its mana costs. You see a theme here.
Indeed. And
I don't like paying mana if I don't have to.
Something else that you said, though, it's from the graveyard. So while you have that initial kickstart of getting 7 in there, as the game goes on, graveyards, I'm assuming, are just building.
That's right.
So there's even more value going in there. And if you didn't get something, imagine that you whiffed the first time, which is pretty hard to do out of those 14 cards. If you do.
As you progress, just through the natural playing of Magic,
it's going to get
You're going to see wild and crazy things happen.
Right.
And what better effect, what feels better than taking your opponent's card and smacking them around with it?
Not much.
Come on.
Not much better than that.
So the deck has a number of of course, 3, 4, 5 casting cost cards. 3 or 4, you're looking for utilities. It's got some of your standards, like it's green, so you've got Eternal Witness.
Right.
It's got Solemn Simulacrum, which is probably good in any
value in any deck,
just
about.
Ever.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of utility cards like that. You know, who knows what you're going to face. Hopefully this deck can take care of a lot of different types of, or can go toe-to-toe with a lot of different types of strategies. And so I have something that's powerful, something that has a lot of fun in its replayability. It has some randomness. Maelstrom Wanderer also, just the effect is random, right? You could play cards that manipulate the top of your deck. Mm-hmm. This doesn't.
Okay.
So you've got that surprise factor.
No scry, nothing in there?
No scroll rack.
Wow.
No brainstorm.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not. I'm looking to have a lot of powerful effects. So even if maybe not exactly what I want is coming up, maybe I haven't manipulated the top of my library to have those 2 effects I really want, but that's part of the fun of it.
Okay.
That's part of the fun of it.
So this is the thing that keeps it from being arguably a competitive deck. CEDH deck is basically the fact that you haven't gone the route of just straight manipulation and being in control of every part of it.
A lot of competitive EDH decks have they've removed a certain amount of randomness.
Sure.
Right. It's you kind of get the same effect every time, and you're executing your game plan with a certain level of reliability.
There's a certain single-mindedness to it and stuff. Yeah. I've had a chance to play that at another game store, and I actually sat down at the competitive table a few times just to see what it was like. And to me, nothing wrong with that playing if that's what you choose to do. But it does seem to remove, well, I said I like the chaos, I like the randomness. So it does seem to remove a certain amount, and if you just know what to do to interrupt that flow, a lot of times it puts them on the back foot and they can't recover from it.
Yeah, there's no tutors in here. There's no infinite combos in here. So it's not, you could tune a deck like this to be much more powerful. And so I've heard this term before, kind of like a 75% deck. So it's powerful, but it's not all powerful. You're not trying to make it the most powerful thing. You're not trying to make it a competitive EDH deck. Like you said, nothing wrong with that kind of game style. Sure. But that's not what I'm looking for, even in my final game of Magic.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Fair enough. So you've already said this before, but just to recap, you can recover from board wipes? Repeated board wipes? What's the weakness of the deck? So start taking notes.
Yeah. No. So a board wipe doesn't hurt you as much because of all the lands you're putting in play.
Right. I was going to say, short of an Armageddon, the fact that you're casting, what did we say? You know the numbers better than I do. What, 20... How much value are you getting out of theirs for mana cost?
Oh yeah, so let's say you get a 7 and a 7 card off of your Cascade, right? For 8 mana, you've just caught you have 3 cards. 2 of them probably have enter the battlefield effects.
Right.
And you've got another 2 cards and 14 mana worth of cards out of 22 mana out of an 8 mana spell.
Yeah.
8 mana repeatable spell. Now, of course, if it goes to the graveyard, now it's 10. But is that really so bad when, you really want to be casting them again anyway?
Right.
To continue to get those cascade effects.
Right.
So you find yourself recovering pretty quickly.
Sure.
The deck kind of peters out a little bit if you really don't. You really need to get to a certain number of land drops. You really want to start getting the double-digit land drops.
Right.
And if you're not finding those effects that help you, maybe you found your Soul Ring and you got to a Thran Dynamo or something like that, and something destroys your artifacts, and you're not finding the actual ramp spells. You're just 1 mana at a time. That really hurts the deck.
Gotcha.
You really need the ramp to make this thing start to hum.
Gotcha.
And that's it. That's it. You got power, you've got speed, you've got ramp.
Game finishing is just to the face, just overwhelming board state.
It's really an overwhelming board state. Yep.
Yeah.
It's putting a lot of powerful effects into play. and overwhelming your opponent with value.
Nice, nice.
Yep.
So the question goes out to you who are watching. What is what's the key to your success playing your last game? What deck is it going to be? Is it a commander you haven't built yet, or is it a commander that you fall back on time and again and just love to play? Let us know in the comments below. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.